All right. We are back again with another episode of the Topwater Podcast. I'm Justin Ellis, and we're about ready to get into the stuff. Let's go ahead and hop on in and punch into the grass that we know the bass are in. All right, so we are back again with another episode of the Topwater Podcast. And I know, it's the Topwater Podcast, but man, it's a weird time that, I mean, I love Topwater. I love Topwater, but the thing is I have done nothing but punch. I've done nothing but punch. And I think the reason why I've done nothing but punch is because of the fact that, well, that's where the fish are. You got to go where the fish are. You have to adapt. You have to adapt. And you have to adapt where they are. And coming into this new tournament, I have to adapt. And I was going to go to Fellows Lake, but with it being 4th of July weekend, it's kind of a hard... I don't necessarily want to go to a very popular lake. That, and also it's like the rain that is coming down and the amount of water that's being put in. I don't know. I don't want to necessarily figure out a new pattern on a new lake with new things and new. Let's put across the board new. No, I don't want to figure that stuff out. Especially for figuring out a new lake. And that's not something that I want to do. And that's not something I'm going to do. So I decided this morning when I got up, and I had to make the hard call. I had to make the hard call of whether or not I was actually going to Springfield Lake or Fellows Lake. So I went ahead and made the hard call. I went to Springfield Lake because this is the lake that I knew. This is the lake that I trust at this point because I've actually caught bass here. Maybe there's the potential to catch, tournament winning bass here, but it's hard for me to venture out to a different lake when I need to catch a fairly decent size. So it comes down to whether or not I want to actually just such a hard decision. It was such a hard decision to go to Springfield Lake or to go to Fellows Lake. And the reason why I went to Springfield Lake this morning is really because of the weather. It has all to do with the weather and it has nothing to do with the preparation and all the stuff that I've been doing for Fellows Lake. So the reason why I went to Springfield Lake instead of Fellows Lake is for the fact that there was just not going to be enough time to be able to get where I'm trying to go and back before weather really started. I didn't want to get stranded. That's really the big thing, is getting stranded. And I want that to be like a very important point onto this. Don't put yourself in a position to get stranded. Do not ever 100% put yourself into a position to get stranded. Because if you get stranded, you really don't know what you're going to have to do in order to get back. You don't know the conditions in order to get back. If your cell phone's wet and it doesn't have protection like my cell phone does. My cell phone doesn't have waterproof protection. Okay, that's not something that my model of cell phone has. Also, at the same time, my kayak has a little bit of a crack in it. Has a couple of spots in it to where I'm like, that's going to leak water. Which, rainy is not that big of a deal. I mean, but that's, in a way, I also think that's kind of like splitting hairs at this point. But it comes down to the fact that I wasn't comfortable being out at a certain time. Just because there was going to be water that was going to be precipitated down. I mean, Jesus Christ, I'm explaining it like a jackass. Welcome to the Topwater Podcast. I'm a jackass, and I'm going to explain shit to you like a jackass. Thank you. You're welcome. But I did get it on a flipping bite. I got on a flipping bite. It's pretty fun. And I actually did better today than I ever did in the last tournament that I did. I think the reason why I really had to actually commit to the flipping bite because I couldn't do anything else, really. When it came down to catching bass, I really couldn't do any other thing because what happened, I went out there with Huddleston, and my Huddleston was on my frog rod. So, and my frog rod is not necessarily this broomstick. It's it's like a 7'1". I think it might be a 7 foot or a 7'1". Heavy action. And it says it's supposed to be a fast action tip, but it has a really parabolic, it gets a good bend to it. It's a good parabolic bend to it when I like set into a fish. And even to a smaller fish, like a 2 pound fish, it'll actually curl up. Like, it'll still curl up on a 2 pound fish. So, 4 or 5 pound fish, it'll really kind of like curl up. But I'm pretty sure I still have the oomph. Like, I got that in order to be able to pull it out of there. Kind of like my 13 Fishing Chrome Fade to Black. I literally lifted a probably like 2.5 pound fish out of like heavy cover. Like, I just went and just like ripped it up and over the cover and just kind of like put it down into my boat, or like it wasn't really down in my boat. It was actually more like into the water next to me. But I essentially just lifted it up and just like, we're going to come here and I'm going to grab you up. But that right there, that fake chromed black, I got to tell you, that's my new favorite flipping rod. Like, that's my new favorite punch rod, just because I have never had the sensitivity of a sort of punching rod of that. So, I mean, I can't really describe to you the fact that how many times I've actually punched into stuff with the same type of rigs that I'm doing and not feeling. I mean, maybe it's a line reel rod setup. Maybe it's because of the fact that I have C-Car 20-pound braid and a Shimano SLX and the Fate Chrome Blacks, and it's all melded into one. and it's ready to go, and it's just like, wow. But I don't want to tell you that that's the way to fucking go. Because that's what I found, that I could feel shit. Just, and as soon as I feel that, I'm like, oh, that's a fish. And don't get me wrong, I've missed fish. I don't want you to think that I don't miss fish on my my setup. I still miss fish. I do. But that's just because sometimes you don't set the hook at the proper time, or you set the hook whenever it's not in their mouth, or you bust out their mouth with I almost feel like it's harder to set the hook on a fish when they're swimming away with the bait than it is because when I lost the fish today, they were swimming kind of towards me. So I reeled down to it and I had to yank up. And I'm pretty sure that the hook just wasn't in the right place. I'm pretty sure that I just busted out the mouth. It's 100%. That's what it was. 100% that when things kind of get themselves in a position to where you can't really set the hook correctly, like even though you're setting the hook correctly, because I yanked on that dude. Like when I yanked on him, felt it. I felt fish, but I didn't feel penetration when I set that hook. And that's kind of really the thing to really kind of think about. It's just when you set the hook, you're going to notice when you penetrate the fish. And something else I noticed is like a lot of times when I'm setting the hook, I'm getting the bottom of the mouth. It's not in the... Sometimes I get in like most of the times here lately I've been getting the corner, but sometimes I get the bottom. Like the first fish that I got, which was like a little over 13 and a quarter. I believe it's like 13.4, but I'm gonna say did I say 14? I meant 15. 15, bros. But what I was saying is, it for me is most likely 15.43. But you never really know. You never really know until the judges actually say what it is, rather than what you think it is. So, well, we'll figure out. And man, that's just some hard luck right there. I mean, but it's good luck. I'm already doing better than the last time I actually went out and fished the last tournament. So right now, I'm already in a better position than last month's tournament. That's great. That's the best thing I could have hoped for. That's the number one thing I could have hoped for, is the fact that I'm doing better than the tournament before. Jesus Christ, it stopped raining. Okay, shit. I was actually hoping to time this a little bit better than this. I was thinking it was still going to be raining right now. This is actually the perfect time to actually get out. If you ever get the opportunity to actually get out there and start fishing whenever the rain stops, that's the best time to actually get out there. Right now, I'm sitting here doing this podcast, and I really don't know what to do. I mean, I really wanted just to get out there and fucking go for it and just fucking... I might actually have to do that. I might actually just like throw a pause on this podcast and throw my kayak onto the... Actually, I'm going to do that. I'm going to throw a fucking pause onto this podcast. I'm going to throw my kayak on the car, and I'm actually going to get out there and get after it, because I'm sorry. I'm sorry, folks, that I fucking multitask sometimes. I'm sorry that I'm going to actually go out there and do some shit. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, this is the time to get out there. You're killing me. Kill me, Smalls. I should probably get out there. I really should. Well, yeah, I'm actually gonna take a pause to this, and I'm actually gonna go fishing for a second. I'll be back. What more can I really say? And my kicker swam away. I went back out. I'm sorry I had to stop the podcast, but I had to go out. It was the end of a rainy day, and the temperature didn't drop. Like, I mean, well, it dropped a little, but it wasn't like a major dip into the temperature. And I had to go out. I had to go out because I had to get I wanted to put bass into the boat, and I did. I actually got a 13.5-inch fish that I actually but I really wish you guys could have seen the fish that I lost. Because I literally stopped fishing because of it. I stopped fishing because of the fish that I lost. And it wasn't because I lost it because the line broke. I didn't lose it because I lost it off the hook. It jumped off. It spit the hook. If I lost it like that, then I kind of feel like then it kind of, he jumped and spit the hook. Oh, that sucks. But, I could live with that. But that's not what happened. What happened is I went to switch hands like this with the fish, so that way I could grab my measuring board, because my measuring boards, I have to grab it with my left hand because it's in front of me with my left hand. I could have grabbed it with my right hand. I had a secure hold with my left hand. I could have grabbed the fish. I could have. God, I feel sick. That was a 5-pounder. That had to be at least a 20-inch fish. I'll say bare minimum 18. Bare minimum 18. What happened is there was basically this pocket. There was two separate pockets. And they're separated by lily pads. Okay, so you essentially have two separate ponds. Essentially. And the reason why I say you essentially have two separate ponds is because of the fact that people don't want to have to push their way through lily pads, because pushing your way through lily pads is, needless to say, it's difficult. It's extremely difficult. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know. Here's a tip. If you got to get through lily pads, turn your paddle around. So normally your paddle has a curve, and that helps you to push water in order to gain momentum and gain speed, which is how you normally paddle. But when it comes down to lily pads, turn that around. So instead of having to scoop, you have sort of a bend like this. And what you're doing is with the bend, you're catching the tops of the lily pads and you're using the lily pads themselves to propel yourself forward. So you're not actually going very fast. You're not going as fast as you normally would, but you're separating the lily pads and it's not catching on, it's not hooking onto your paddle, essentially. Because instead of it coming out like sort of like this, it's on the opposite side. So you have that round bend to the opposite side, so everything just kind of flows off the lily pad. So there's two different I would say impoundments. Impoundments. Is it an impoundment? I think it might be an impoundment. I don't know. English is my first language, and I'm not great at it, so bear with me. So, the first little impoundment, the first little pond, essentially, I fished it. I fished the shaded side, and I really didn't have too good of results. And there wasn't anything really going on, but I kind of figured that was going to be the case. Because with the rain that just happened, literally just happened, because I started the podcast. And it was raining, and then the rain stopped, and I stopped the podcast. And the reason why I stopped the podcast, because it stopped raining. And as soon as it stopped raining, I went out. Because it was kind of a stormy sort of rain, like there was lightning. And, you don't want to be on the water during a thunderstorm, essentially. Because holding a graphite rod while lightning's happening, if you put 1 + 1 = 2. Lightning, graphite rod, electrified Justin. That was the equation in my brain. Plus, there is a small crack in my kayak, unfortunately, that I still need to fix. But that would lead for water to actually get inside the hull of the kayak and actually weigh it down and actually cause it to sit lower in the water and possibly sink eventually if there was enough water. I don't think that there would ever be enough rain to really do that, because even with, I fished during rainy, it wasn't a thunderstorm, but they were like, yeah, it's going to rain. And I fished through it, even with the crack. I mean, there was still a substantial amount of water inside my kayak, but, it wasn't so much where I was sinking my kayak. It's just I wasn't putting it up on top of my car with all the water inside of it. I just, flip it upside down, let it drain out, and hey, guess what? We're good to go. But this fish, I can't tell you how much just, it's like, it's not a kick to the balls, because a kick to the balls is like a really harsh thing that happens. It's more like a nut tap. Whenever someone goes, cup check, bam, and fucking hits your fucking nuts, and you're like, God dang it. Jesus. That's what this was like. I didn't even... I don't like country. Particularly. This is not my type of music. I mean, okay, I know most of you guys and gals, or you like country. You like country music. You like listen to it. And I don't want to say that country music is necessarily a terrible brand of music. Pop country, yes, that is terrible. Pop in general is just terrible. I think pop in general is just terrible. I mean, that's just my consensus Because pop in general is just terrible. I will give credit where credit is due. Like Honey Honey, woo, Sturgill Simpson. Those are my guys and gals. I guess guys and gals. I don't know. I've listened to Honey Honey a few different times on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I gotta tell you, she's probably a little bit more manly than some, like, half the fucking men. I mean, Jesus, she gets down. Either way, this is what it comes down to. I was singing country music. Like, I was singing because there was no other outlet other than just sheer cussing. Other than just sheer cussing, the only outlet was country music. Because I lost the kicker. I lost it. Jesus, I lost the kicker. Oh, it makes me so sick. Oh, and the way I caught it too. Oh, it was a fight just to even get it in. I thought I was going to lose it. I flipped into like a tree that was hanging into the water, and I felt the ka-doom, and I was like, set the hook. And when I set the hook, I thought I set it into a tree. Because I did. Quite literally, I did set it into a tree. I set the hook, and I set the hook into a fish, into the tree, and I couldn't tell how big it was, but I knew it was substantial because it wasn't coming up, but it was still there. And I just kept enough tension onto it to where I wasn't pulling it up to the tree. And that's another thing. You don't want to necessarily have that fish up against whatever you're pulling it towards. You don't want to give it that leverage, because what happens is once it gets to that tree, all of a sudden your hook just stays in place and it's able to move around and swim and and it gets off because it can swim forward and you don't have any sort of play. So all of a sudden your hook, what's keeping it pinned, is now stationary. You don't want your hook to be stationary. So I was trying to give it enough line and trying to get to it while paddling a kayak. This wasn't like a trolling motor to where I can just like kind of feed it. No, I was trying to maneuver myself with a kayak into a tree with a big bass on the other line. I'm sick. I am literally sick right now. The reason why this is so important is because there was mistakes made. And they were nobody else's fault but my own. This was only my fault. This was nobody else's fault. This was not the fish's fault. This was not the line maker's fault. This was not the hook maker's fault. This was not the bait maker's fault. This wasn't the rod maker's fault. This wasn't the reel maker's fault. This was nobody's fault other than my own. And I am sick. I am sick right now. And I don't want to cuss. So I sung some country. My kicker swam away. I was singing that the whole way home. Just to make myself feel better. Jesus. I am sick because of that. The feeling of just, it was right there. It was so close. All I had to do was put it on a measuring board. What better story? It's the 4th of July. Nobody's on the lake because it's been raining. Everybody's off the lake because they're shooting off fireworks. I'm there. I am sacrificing time instead of having fun with somebody, with family or something else. I'm out there tournament fishing. I lose my kicker. That was my opportunity. That was the opportunity. Ugh. I am sick. I am literally sick to my stomach right now. It just makes me, It literally would have been, it would have been a game changer. Right now, I got a 15.3, a 15, a 13.5, and a 13.5, and that big fish I don't know what to say. That would put me up there. That would have helped out a lot. That would have kind of solidify my position in the upper echelon of that field. That one fish and today was and it started out so raw. It started out so terrible. I bought a Huddleston. If you watched the last podcast, you would have seen that I bought a Huddleston and that I was trying to fish, that I wanted to fish this Huddleston. And I was planning to go out to Springfield Lake. And the reason why I didn't was just because of the fact that Springfield Lake was just a little bit closer. And I kind of figured, yeah, why not? Just like, if I only have, a couple hours to fish here and there, I might as well just go out to Springfield Lake. I shouldn't go, if I only have a couple hours to fish, I should go where I know, not where I don't. So instead of trying to figure something out in a couple of hours, I already have something figured out. I already know what I'm doing on that specific lake. And obviously it showed. It was showing today. It was showing that I knew what the hell I was doing. Until the biggest bass so far that I would have been able to measure in on this tournament swam away. My kicker swam away. My kicker, and I could just see it. Just, whoop. Just, there she goes. There she goes. Just off back into the depth. Back into the brush. Where she belongs. No measurement. No score. A big fat 0. And is nobody's to blame but myself. Because what had happened, when I unhooked the fish, I got the hook out. It was a good hook. when I say it was hook, like that fish was not coming off. That fish was not coming off. No matter how much that fish bucked and just squirmed and jumped out of the water, that fish was not coming off without breaking the line. I had a solid hook set. I had a solid hook in it. But that's not why I lost it. I unhook the fish, and I have it in my left hand, and I go to switch it over to my right hand, and the fish bucks. And when it did, it tore the shit out of my finger, and it went right out of my hand. Because when a 5-pound bass bucks, obviously, it's not a small bass. That's a little bit of weight. And you don't really think about it, but it bucked. But it bucked in a certain way in the right time. The timing of this fish was just about as great as the timing of my pitch. When I pitched in there, I just felt like there's got to be a bass here. But I think the same, I don't even want to say the same thought. That's me putting human thoughts into a bass's mind. What it probably felt was a lightening of the pressure inside of its mouth, and it decided to buck at that certain point in time. And when it bucked, my hands weren't secure onto the fish because I was transferring the fish from one hand to another, and it bucked, it hit the side of the kayak, and it went into the water. I am sick. I feel sick. Because it's 100% my fault. 100%. I should have gripped it with the other hand first. I shouldn't have tried to transfer it as quick as I did. I was trying to hurry up and get my board and get a measurement and just try to do it as quickly as possible. I am sick. I hope you understand the level of disappointment with myself at this point is pretty high. Because I expect better out of myself. I expect myself to see something like that and be like, that's a rookie mistake. And that's what I did. I made a very rookie mistake. I made a mistake that people who first start bass fishing make that mistake. And I made that mistake. I know better than that. I've been bass fishing for a number of years now. Yeah, this is the first time I've really been competitively bass fishing, but you know what? I should hold myself to a better standard than that. And that's why it makes me so sick. And that's the reason why I'm just so disappointed in myself right now. I had a great day of fishing, and I am disappointed in myself because of that one fish. Because I know I could have done better. I could have done so much better than that. There's one decision that I made, and when I made that decision, and when I made the decision to hurry, I made the decision to cut corners and to not do it right. And when I didn't do it right, that's the reason why that fish is gone. And that's the reason why I don't have it on the board. And that's the reason why I don't have my kicker right now. And I'm singing country songs about losing my kicker. It makes me sick. Because I'm a competitor. I'm competitive. I have that in my blood. I am a competitor. I am competitive. And with something like that, and when I see like a chink in my armor like that, it makes me sick. It makes me sick that I made that decision. It makes me sick the fact that I didn't put that fish on the board. There was no reason for me to not put that fish on the board other than making mistakes. And mistakes, you have to learn from them. You have to learn from those mistakes. You should 100% look at something like that and go, that is a mistake I made. You know how I get better? By not making that mistake. I'm not going to get better by just going, oh, well, the fish is out the boat. Quick release. I mean, it's all well and good if we're fun fishing. If we were fun fishing, I'd sit there and be like, I got a great story for you. This whole story would be in a different context. But instead, I have to be harsh with myself. The harshness that you are hearing is not for your benefit, it's for mine. It's not for anybody else's benefit other than my own. Unless you look at this and you go, yeah, I need to be harsh with myself too. Because I made mistakes and I need to take responsibility for those mistakes. That was a mistake. And who knows? At the end of the month, that could cost me positions. That literally could cost me. That's probably costing me positions now. There's probably people there that haven't even logged bass or haven't even caught the bass that they're going to catch, but that one bass would have put me a little bit higher, would have gave me the extra inches that I would have needed, would have been that one fish that, hey, you know what? That means the difference between finishing 12th, 13th, 14th. Instead of, I would have been finishing 9th, 8th, whatever position it was. It makes me sick. It makes me sick to make mistakes like that. Because I know I can do better. Because the potential of doing better is there, and I didn't do it. Instead, I try to go quick. I try to cut corners. I shouldn't have done that. That was a 5-pound bass that just hopped right out of my hands. Instead of telling you how great my day was, now you're hearing about my mistake. Which I had a great day of fishing. Overall, my day of fishing was actually really great. Matter of fact, right now, I'm on track to beat my average from last month. Just with what I have on the board right now, I have on track to beat last month's catches. But unfortunately, I lost the kicker. I lost the big fish. I made a mistake. I made that mistake. And now I have to deal with that mistake. Now I have to come back from that mistake. Now I wouldn't say I have to fish harder, but I have to keep going. I have to keep grinding. I have to keep going about the business that I'm trying to do, which is being successful at fishing. And I have to push, and I have to keep pressing forward. What that means is that the mistake that I made today, it needs to be burned into my memory. And this is one of the reasons why this podcast is great. It's because not only do I get to sit here and confess my mistakes that I've made. So it gives me the ability to be able to be objective about the things I've done wrong. But not only that, I have to sit here and listen to it. So when I edit this, that means I have to sit here and listen to myself, tell myself about the mistake that I made. It needs to be burned in my head. Because when you make a mistake, you need to understand that you can do better than that. That there was things that you did wrong, and because of the things you did wrong, it led to the loss. And you need to understand that the mistakes that you've made can be corrected. And the mistakes that you made, sometimes there's nothing you could do. Sometimes you have everything going right, and for some reason it falls apart. You did everything you could, and it still falls apart. Yeah, you can figure out why it fell apart and then kind of correct those and make those adjustments. But today was not about making I even made adjustments. When I started today, the first thing I did was throw my Huddleston. I bought a Huddleston, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to throw it along this creek arm, basically the river arm, essentially. You know, there's deep water next to grass. I kind of figured that there's going to be bass. There's probably big bass that are hunkered either down low and looking up, looking to ambush bass, and just not ambush bass, but ambush bait as it comes along down the river. But the first thing I do is I toss the bait, and I'm just not used to the weight of a Huddleston. Not only that, the reel that I had was way too loose to be throwing a Huddleston. I needed to tighten that reel up just a bit. So that way, as I huck that dude out, the reel wouldn't just spin out of control. But unfortunately, on the second cast of this Huddleston, I backlashed. And when I say backlashed, I mean bird's nest. It blew up my reel. I couldn't get it undone. Matter of fact, it was so bad, I literally had to take a razor to it and then pull it out piece by piece. That's how bad that backlash was. There was no getting that thing out. That thing was buried. And I had to cut the crap out of that thing in order to just undo that backlash. So there went my frog rod. So all I had was on me, because I didn't have all my rods, because I was like, well, it's only going to be a couple hours. I'm not going to take everything in the world. I'm just going to take the absolute essentials. And when I took the absolute essentials, I saw what I got. And what I got was one rod that was useless, and then two rods that I couldn't fish a topwater. And there's fish blowing up left and right. Well, that sucked, because I was planning on fishing lily pads with a frog. Too bad, so sad. So I ended up flipping. I ended up coming out with a couple of 15-inch fish and a 13.5. Not a bad start. It's not a bad start to the tournament. It's a better start than what I had. Because the last month, I ended up starting out with just a few 13-inch fish. So I'm already setting myself up to beat last month's average. And that's great. And I don't think that should necessarily be overshadowed by losing this big fish. But I think there's a cautionary tale. When you go to transfer a fish from one hand to another, make sure before you start releasing, and it's all about pressure, because those fish can feel pressure. And I notice it when I'm taking pictures and doing, because when you have to measure your fish, you have to take a photograph. And a lot of the times, you'll ease up off that other hand in order to, do this hand. So you'll just kind of relax that hand. But as soon as you start to relax that hand, the fish can feel that. The pressure kind of eases up a little bit, and they start to bug. So that's why at first it was so hard for me to take pictures, and it took me a while to figure out that what I need to do is I need to grip them hard and stay gripped. Not so hard to where I'm just squeezing the crap out of them, but get a good firm grip. When I have a good firm grip, to maintain that grip. The same goes with transferring hands. So when you if you have it lipped on one side and you go to transfer that hand, make sure when you transfer that hand that you solid grip that hand before you ease up. Don't try to whoop like that. Don't. Whatever happened, it just went and out my hand. It just it sucks. And actually, because it's getting to the end of the podcast, I always try to leave some sort of positive message or some sort of things are great or whatever it is, or, whatever it might be. Or to tell you guys that, shit's fucking rough right now. Hang in there. But I think the best thing I could tell you right now, and the most positive thing I could tell you, and hopefully this podcast highlights it, that when you make that sort of mistake, and even though losing a big bass isn't that big of a mistake, there's way bigger mistakes. I've made way bigger mistakes than that, mind you. And the reason why I'm so harsh on myself because of that mistake is because I know I've made bigger mistakes. And I know what I'm capable of. And I know when I hold myself accountable, that's when those mistakes are corrected. And that's the biggest thing I could tell you guys, is you shouldn't necessarily be afraid of making mistakes, or you shouldn't necessarily just, you should be cognitive of the mistakes that you've made and the effect that those mistakes have, and to try your best to correct those mistakes as much as possible, and to figure out a way not to make those mistakes. And try to understand the actual effect of those actions. To actually take it and look at it in a way to where you're not just thinking about it in, this is the only path that was available. That there's multiple paths, but that one mistake caused you to go down a certain path. Just like now I'm set in a path to where now I got to make up for that mistake. I got to make up for losing that fish. But instead, well, not instead, but in the future, I will make sure that I don't make that mistake again. That hopefully that the way I feel now will imprint itself into my memory the next time I go to transfer a fish from one hand to another. That I don't make the same mistake that I did before. That I don't get in a rush. That I pay attention to what I am doing. And just understanding that your mistakes have consequences. But those consequences can be adjusted. You can make up for that. Just because you make one mistake doesn't mean you have to keep making mistake after mistake after mistake. It's kind of like saying, well, I lost that big fish. I should just keep losing big fish. That I'm just going to keep doing it for the rest of my life. No. We all make mistakes. We just have to be responsible for our mistakes, and we have to be responsible to make the adjustments in order to not make those mistakes again. So that way, in the future, we'll be all good. And we'll be all, it'd be all gravy. It'd be all great. I know this kind of took a serious note onto this podcast. But I do want to say that everybody who's listening to this, I want to give you guys, as much love as possible for listening to this and listening to me just sit here and rant on and talk about fishing. And it to be honest, it makes me feel great to sit down and be able to do this. It makes me, you don't understand, this is, for me to actually pursue this, this is kind of like a dream come true to me. Even though, I ain't making money off of this. I mean, of course I'm not. I got, you can see it. I got 5 views. I got 34 subscribers. And every single one of you guys, I just want to say thank you. I mean, literally, thank you. This is the Independence Day of America. This is the day to where, I mean, I guess, quote unquote, it's the birthday of America. I don't know if this is the actual day to where we actually freed ourselves, if it was, or the day that we actually, I think it was the day that we actually signed the Constitution and the founding fathers actually signed the Constitution and everything like that. But this is what it comes down to. We're all American. And you know what? Love you all. We're all, I mean, even if you aren't American, if you're English, still love you. You know why? You're a person. Guess what? You're part of the world. If you're one that's an earth, that you're just being an earthist. I'm a universist. We're all part of the universe. We're all part of the earth. We're all part of this galaxy. We're all part of everything. We are all stardust. We are all we're all people. Even though we're all different, but that's what makes America great. That's what I love about America. We're all different. And I want to celebrate that difference. I want to celebrate the individual. I want to celebrate you. You who you are. Be yourself. If you want to have whatever fucking going on, great. As long as that's true to you. Don't do it for anybody else. Do it for yourself. Just like I don't go out and go fishing for anybody else other than myself. I don't sit here and do this podcast for anybody else. Even though I do want to bring as much information, as much entertainment as possible and just shed as much light onto the sport that I love. I don't necessarily do it for anybody else. I do it for myself because I love this. I love sitting down and doing a podcast. I love sitting down and editing videos. I love going out and going fishing. I love getting content. I love doing the whole thing. It's what I do, and it's great, and it's fun. And I just want on the 4th of July, I just want to say to everybody, I want to celebrate who you are. So drop a comment down below talking about maybe your favorite passion. You know, whether it be fishing or quilting or lure making or exercise or making music or whatever it is. Drop a comment down below what makes you you. And if fishing is what makes you you, then you're in the right place. And if not, welcome to the fishing world. I'm Justin Ellis, and I'll see you out in the water.